Tonight, Labor pledges to reduce student debt repayments. Good evening, I'm Richard Davies. Live from Adelaide, this is ABC News. Also, Donald Trump slammed for violent rhetoric as the US election nears. An exclusive interview with opposition leader Vincent Tarzia ahead of a crucial by-election. And the countdown to Christmas is on as hundreds of thousands turn out for the pageant. University graduates could save hundreds of dollars a year in student debt repayments under the federal government's flagged shake-up of the HEC system. The reforms are contingent on the Albanese government being re-elected and would also allow graduates to earn more before having to start their repayments.
A pre-election pitch to younger Australians, struggling amid a cost of living crunch.
Everybody earning up to $180,000 a year will pay less every year in their student debt repayments.
The government unveiling an election commitment to reduce the burden of student debt months out from the election.
What this will do is help people who are just starting out, who've just finished uni, who've just finished TAFE, and have now got to pay the bills, pay the rent or are saving for a mortgage. 3
million Australians would benefit from the changes, which would be introduced to Parliament if the Albanese government is returned at the next election. They'd include a shift to a marginal repayment system, similar to the income tax thresholds, where you pay a set rate per dollar over a certain level rather than a percentage of total earnings. Graduates could also earn more before they have to start repaying the debt, with an increase to the minimum repayment threshold from $54,000 to $67,000. The average university graduate will be $680 better off a year under the changes. For graduates earning $70,000 a year, their repayments will fall by $1,300. Those on $80,000 will pay $850 less. And it's got the approval of the original architect of the scheme.
HECS has been wrong for about 35 years, collecting on the basis of total income. I don't think it's mattered a lot overall, but it has certainly disadvantaged people at those crunch points.
Students are mostly on board.
There's so much more you can do with that extra money, especially when you're young and you're trying to start up your life.
I think it would be like a huge difference. I think it would really open up a lot of opportunities for people.
It's a good idea, but I do think more needs to be done.
Like the spare money would be good, but probably just use it to keep repaying it anyway. So.
The government's suite of reforms to tackle student debt, including some yet to be announced, won't come cheap. But the government insists they'll go some way to addressing generational inequality. The opposition isn't on board, arguing the reforms risk signing young people up to a lifetime of debt. Nicole Hegarty, ABC News, Canberra.
The two candidates in the race for the White House have spent the day campaigning in the Midwestern Rust Belt, often only a few kilometres apart. But violent language is once again polarising the nation, with Donald Trump suggesting a former Republican should have guns in her face. It's prompted Kamala Harris to suggest the former president should be disqualified from standing. Our correspondent Elias Kluwer reports from the swing state of Michigan.
The parties are in Michigan, another crucial battleground.
Hello, Michigan.
On the final weekend of campaigning,
4 days left.
Both candidates have returned to the one-time auto manufacturing heartland, courting blue-collar voters.
At Chrysler, GM and Ford plants, and they're telling me that 65%, a solid 65%, are supporting Donald Trump.
She's for the working people. She's for the everyday Joe that busts his ass in this country.
We will invest in the industries that built America, like steel, iron, the electric power industry.
The former president also used his visit to drive up support among Muslim voters in the nation's largest Arab American community.
You're going to have peace in the Middle East, but not with the clowns that you have running the U.S. right now.
Donald Trump's Rust Belt swing is forming part of his final pitch to working-class voters, but instead this particular trip to here in Detroit has been overshadowed by comments he made about former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
She's a radical war hawk
Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
The outspoken Republican, who says she's now voting for the Democrats, took to X and described the comments as cruel and vindictive. This is how dictators destroy free nations, she said.
This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
Later, President Trump clarified his comments on Truth Social, saying the former Congresswoman wouldn't have the guts to fight for herself. Joining Kamala Harris's fight, more star power, actor Mark Ruffalo.
She's our only choice, folks.
And pop star Cardi B.
I'm with Kamala. And America, I believe in you to turn out on Tuesday. Turn out and turn up on Tuesday. Turn the page and let's win this thing.
Some glitz and glamour in an increasingly ugly race. Elias Kluwer, ABC News, Michigan.
And with just 4 days to go, our global affairs editor John Lyons is in Washington with his take on how the candidates are performing.
In the final days before the US presidential election, both candidates are continuing to make their last-minute pitch to voters in the 7 swing states across the country, but are narrowing their focus on states including Michigan and Wisconsin. But all eyes will be on Pennsylvania, with its large number of electoral college votes. It could be the deciding state in this election. Donald Trump is continuing to play to what the Republicans see as their 2 strongest issues, immigration and the economy. Kamala Harris is highlighting reproductive rights, particularly in terms of abortion, but is also trying to bolster her economic credentials with voters. This election result is simply impossible to predict, and key pollsters say the result may not be known for some days after the election.
3 people are being treated in hospital after a grass fire in Adelaide's northern suburbs. The husband, wife and their 20-year-old daughter were fighting to save their home after the fire broke out near Wommer Road in Penfield. They were treated for smoke inhalation and heat exhaustion. Police say the fire was sparked by an angle grinder, with 2 men expected to be charged. Emergency services work to protect property and lives, including an aged care home with 200 residents.
We've got 200 residents in there and we're doing a sweep through there. There's 20 vulnerable patients that we're currently checking and hopefully they're all okay and nothing will come of that.
Hundreds of people remain unaccounted for following the catastrophic floods in eastern Spain. Emergency crews are searching through washed-up cars and abandoned buildings, with the death toll now exceeding 200. Thousands of volunteers have turned out in force to help with the mammoth cleanup.
3 days on from the destructive deluge, reinforcements are arriving. Volunteers armed with shovels and brooms stream into the disaster zone to lend a hand.
It's amazing. It's thousands of people coming from Valencia, like a big corridor of people, heartwarming.
Locals forced to get creative to get by. Dirty bottles plucked from the river can't afford to go to waste here, where everything is running out.
No matter how much help comes, this is not going to be fixed in a month or 2.
The task is overwhelming. Entire towns have been ripped apart by the floodwaters, while help is yet to reach others that are completely cut off.
We haven't been through the worst part yet. Nothing can come through, no food, nothing.
The devastation is everywhere. These cars were swept into a tunnel. Firefighters now combing through one by one, searching for the missing. Shock is giving way to mounting anger at how a disaster of this scale could unfold with so little warning.
There was no warning at all. I think that this caught everyone by surprise.
Our local government didn't do anything about it, knowing they well knew that, this was coming.
This was Australian Caroline Doyle's view. She'd been teaching an English class and rushed her students to safety.
We heard the boom of the doors being ripped off the house in front of us and the water just flooding in.
She says the cleanup is impossible to comprehend.
It just seemed unbelievable.
And inconceivable from above too. This was the region 3 days ago. Now it's been completely transformed. Experts say human-induced climate change makes these disasters more likely and more severe. Soldiers have been sent in to join the swarms of volunteers as they begin a recovery mission, which could take years. Bridget Rollison, ABC News.
Intense Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 52 people in northeastern Lebanon, according to the country's health ministry. Israel's Air Force also destroyed dozens of buildings in the capital Beirut, though it appeared most residents had been evacuated. In central Gaza, Palestinians recovered the bodies of 25 people killed in Israeli attacks that began on Thursday. Meanwhile, emergency services say rockets fired from Lebanon into central Israel on Saturday injured 11 people. A young girl is among at least 14 people killed after a roof collapsed at a train station in Serbia. The concrete canopy came crashing down onto a set of benches outside the station in Novi Sad, the country's second largest city. 3 people remain in hospital, all of them in serious condition. A vigil was held for the victims, with locals lighting candles and laying flowers at a makeshift memorial. The government has declared Saturday an official day of mourning and promised an investigation into the collapse. Art thieves armed with heavy explosives have made off with 2 artworks by Andy Warhol in the Netherlands. The gallery owner has described the heist as amateurish. He says the thieves blew open the doors, then ripped 2 artworks from their frames, damaging them beyond repair. Another 2 works were abandoned in the street, reportedly because they didn't fit in the getaway car. The screen prints were part of a 1985 series by Warhol depicting the then queens of the UK, the Netherlands, Denmark and Swaziland. Families devastated by the incurable asbestos cancer, mesothelioma, are urging Australia to deal with the millions of tonnes of asbestos remaining in buildings across the country, including about a third of homes. Under a national plan, the potentially deadly building material would have to be disclosed to prospective buyers and renters of older homes built before 1990. Claire Moody reports.
Mark Drage lost his wife 18 months ago.
Devastation, obviously. We both working hard, saving for our retirement, and that curveball gets thrown at you.
Kathleen was diagnosed with mesothelioma over 20 years after the couple helped renovate a beach house north of Perth.
She climbed up onto a very old asbestos roof and ended up with fibres all over her clothing. Some of these products should have had a product recall years ago. That may have saved my wife's life.
About 6 million tonnes of the material remains in everything from roofs to wall panels, with the cost of removal one of the big barriers.
It's starting to show in the numbers and the amount of people that are coming down with an asbestos-related disease through home renovations.
But it's not just an older person's disease. 18-year-old Jarni Greatorix in Gippsland is one of the youngest Australians to be diagnosed with mesothelioma.
I ended up in hospital with my lungs being filled with fluid. I couldn't breathe.
Jarni's receiving immunotherapy treatment. Her family is still trying to pinpoint where she was exposed to asbestos fibres.
It's one thing to be told yourself that you have cancer. I had that diagnosis. It's completely another thing to hear that your child has cancer. But to hear that it's something that could have been prevented.
Exhibiting at this trade show in Newcastle, Barry Robson's been trying to raise awareness for 30 years.
Any house built before 1990?
He says stronger laws are needed, including registers disclosing if asbestos is present in homes on the market.
In other words, that the buyer of that house knows that this house contains asbestos.
And that's a proposal that's actually outlined in this strategic plan, which points out that over 4,000 Australians are still dying from asbestos-related diseases each year. The plan calls for incentives to encourage homeowners to have asbestos surveys done and for these to be disclosed at point of sale and lease. But the real estate industry is calling for bonded asbestos that's in good condition to be exempt from any mandatory rules unless there's a clear risk.
I think it's important to disclose potential asbestos to our renters and our purchasers, but we just need to work out how it's best to do that without imposing extra costs on consumers.
These professional asbestos removalists aren't taking any chances.
People are a bit sort of maybe naive or flippant about it. They think it'll be okay, it won't happen to me.
They're set to be busy in coming decades.
Well, the old saying is, do it yourself, do yourself in. It's as simple as that.
It'll be up to each state when they carry out the measures within the Asbestos National Plan. Affected families believe they're long overdue. Claire Moody, ABC News.
For South Australian opposition leader Vincent Tarzia, it's been anything but smooth sailing since he took over the top job in August. His predecessor, David Spears, is facing drug charges, while the Liberals have once again been battling internal issues, this time brought on by a push to reform late-term abortion laws. With a by-election to replace Mr Spears now a fortnight away, Mr Tarzia insists he's focused on issues that matter to voters, despite the problems his party has faced. He sat down with state political reporter Rory McLaren for Stateline.
Opposition Leader Vincent Tarzia, thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Rory.
Leader, could the first nearly 3 months of your leadership have gone any worse?
No, I wouldn't say that at all. Look, I'm focused on the issues that matter most to South Australians, making sure we do things like hold the government to account about cost of living that is going through the roof for people at the moment, making sure we hold the government to account in terms of the ramping crisis, and making sure that we do everything possible.
How distracting, though, has the last 2 months been with regards to the issues surrounding David Spears and also the abortion debate?
Oh, look, sometimes there are these challenges that come up from time to time, but you've just got to deal with them. And I think what I need to remember is what I'm focused on is making sure that we do everything possible to not only hold the government to account, but also make sure that we present an alternative government to the people of South Australia.
Has the recent abortion debate, though, been good or bad for your party's chances of the black by-election?
Well, don't forget, I mean, this isn't a matter for the Liberal Party. This is a conscience decision and matter.
That is being brought forward by members of the Liberal Party.
These debates have come up from time to time from both sets of both sides of the political spectrum. What I'm really focused on is making sure that we put those issues behind us now and we focus on the issues that are most important.
So is that a concession that the issue hasn't resonated in the electorate?
No, I think from time to time the Parliament has been able to debate these matters of conscience, but now that that vote has been had and that issue's out of the way, what I'm focused on is making sure that we do everything possible to present an alternative vision to the people of South Australia on issues like cost of living and also healthcare and housing and the range of other issues that I think matter most to South Australians. That's what I'm focused on.
We'll come to those in a minute. Do you think your party's internals are going to hurt you at the by-election?
I think from time to time people are free to debate these matters of conscience. We've seen them in the 10 years that I've been in Parliament. Sometimes it's come from members of the Labor Party, sometimes the Liberal Party.
Do you concede, though, it's been messy the way this has been handled?
Well, I think that debate has been had, the vote has been lost, and we move on.
Why haven't we seen more from you on policy at this stage of your leadership?
Well, we've had around 30 policies that we've already put forward to the people of South Australia.
No, but you personally?
Well, I've already put forward a range of policies to the people of South Australia. I mean, only this week, after we saw crime that's risen right across the board, we put in a proposal to make sure that we legislate against underage teenagers from buying knives.
But what about big ticket items, though, later?
Well, we've also called for a freeze on government fees and charges. We know that cost of living is the #1 issue across the board. So we announced that policy only a couple of weeks ago. So we called for a freeze on government fees and charges. We know people are doing it tough out there when it comes to cost of living. It's the #1 issue out there. So we already have put a number of policies forward and we'll continue to roll them out.
Do you think what's happened to David Spears will help or hinder you in the by-election?
David's obviously had a very challenging time the last couple of months, but at the end of the day, David was a very fierce community advocate for the seat of Black. That's come really strongly through when I've been out there door knocking the residents of Black and been at the shopping centres. So I think there's a lot of sympathy for David's community advocacy, and that's what we want to continue.
But there's also a lot at stake here. I mean, you lose this seat and you're basically locked out of the southern suburbs.
Well, we're doing everything possible to make sure we don't take anything for granted, making sure that we put forward a whole suite of policies. We started with the Merino train station upgrade. That was an area that I think was ignored by Labor for some time. We also made an announcement in relation to the Hallett Cove Sea Pool. Residents have been calling for this upgrade for many, many years. We're just going to put our best foot forward. We're not taking anything for granted, and we're doing everything possible to gain the respect of the black voters.
Vincent Tasia, thank you.
Thank you.
Organisers say hundreds of thousands of people turned out for Adelaide's annual Christmas pageant today. The event has been going for 9 decades, and Father Christmas was given an even warmer welcome this year thanks to fine weather.
Adelaide's CBD was lined with people today for the city's popular Christmas pageant. Those with front row seats say the early morning alarm clock was worth it.
Yeah, we got here about 2:30 and it definitely was when the kids are as happy as what they are.
My sister-in-law came here at 6:30 this morning.
The event has been going since 1933 and aims to bring joy to children across SA.
My favourite float would probably be the Big Purple Monster because it's really fluffy and cute. And I love Christmas because it's a time to love your family and share Christmas with everyone.
You get hundreds and thousands of presents when it's Christmas.
It's a great time of the year. It's always very exciting for the young ones.
But it's not just the kids who enjoy the parade.
I mean, to be honest, I think it's better for me. I just feel like childhood dreams are coming back and I can only imagine how they feel, like seeing all of this. It's just a magical experience.
Event organisers say there were 18 bands, 5 choirs, 30 dance groups and 300 elves and clowns. People also didn't seem to mind the heat or that it's nearly 2 months until Christmas.
Not at all. Not at all. Christmas can be earlier than that.
Well, there's just over 50 sleeps until Christmas, and while you're unlikely to find an advent calendar this far out, there's no doubt the countdown to Christmas in South Australia has well and truly begun. Brianna Fiore, ABC News. Merry Christmas!
Adelaide has secured a top 4 spot ahead of the AFLW finals with a come-from-behind win over Geelong last night. The Crows recovered from a slow start and inaccuracy in front of goals to win by 4 points, ending Geelong's season.
Adelaide is once again finding form at the right time of year.
And the Crows end Geelong's season and all but wrap up the double chance once again.
Fighting back from a 15-point deficit to take down the in-form Cats.
It was such a good fight by the girls, obviously down at the half-time and just our response in the third quarter, and obviously to stay up in the last quarter was just unbelievable.
Geelong needed to win to be any chance of playing finals and made a ferocious start.
Bends the kick goalward. Brilliant start for the Cats.
Kicking the first 3 goals of the game to build a handy half-time lead. Adelaide responded in the third, Caitlin Gould dominating in the air up forward. Anne Hatchard getting the margin back to just 1 at the final change.
Turns, goes herself and goals.
Gould's third edged the Crows ahead in the final term as the visitors held on to secure 4th spot. Adelaide's accuracy remains an issue ahead of finals with another 8 behinds kicked.
We've been working pretty hard at it, but thus far we haven't really turned the corner. So we just have to, maintain that and keep going and hopefully, in a big game, hopefully we can get that right.
Crows forward Danielle Ponta rolled her ankle late in the game but is expected to be fit for Adelaide's first final. Cameron Slesser, ABC News.
Nathan McSweeney has put his hand up for Australia's vacant Test opener spot, adding an unbeaten 47 to his first innings 39 in Australia A's match against India A. Marcus Harris also found some runs, scoring 36 before being caught behind. Sam Constas was bowled, leaving a good delivery, while Cameron Bancroft's lean trot continues, managing just 16. McSweeney took his chance in the middle, hitting 5 boundaries as the hosts went to stumps, needing 86 runs to win. Meanwhile, Australia's one-day side turned up for its series against Pakistan, which starts at the MCG on Monday. The tourists haven't played ODI cricket since last year's World Cup, but paceman Sean Abbott says Pakistan can't be underestimated.
There's enough footage and stuff around, and I feel like most of the skills are transferable across formats, and it comes down to, I suppose, just being ready between the ears, like on the mental side of the game.
The Melbourne Renegades have secured their first victory of the women's Big Bash season, winning by 6 wickets against the Perth Scorchers. Bowling first at Junction Oval, the spinners dominated for the hosts, with Sophie Molyneux's 4 wickets helping bowl Perth out for just 140. Openers Courtney Webb and Hayley Matthews then combined for an unbeaten 102 as Melbourne chased down the total comfortably. Earlier, the Hurricanes handed the Heat their first loss, winning by 7 wickets. Brisbane posted a target of 173 after opener Grace Harris hit 75 off 57 balls. But Danny Wyatt-Hodges' half-century was pivotal as Hobart reeled in the total with 2 balls to spare.
Well, the pitch was a little bit on the slow side, and I just kept it simple, really. Like, if the ball was in my areas, then go for it, and just play attacking cricket.
The Adelaide 36ers have been dealt another heavy loss in the NBL, falling to the New Zealand Breakers 109-82 in Auckland. The Breakers came out firing at home with their highest scoring first quarter of the season to lead by 14 points at the first break. Adelaide's imports lifted in the second before another surge from the Breakers. Parker Jackson Cartwright with 20 points for the half. The home side continued to dominate after the main break, extending the lead out beyond 20 points. Adelaide suffering a 4th loss of the season as New Zealand moved to the top of the ladder with a 27-point victory. The Central Coast Mariners have stunned Sydney FC with an opening round victory in the A-League women's competition. The defending champions went down 3-1 in Gosford. Canberra United also beat Brisbane Roar 3-2 at McKellar Park, with Maya Markovski scoring a double on debut. And Melbourne Victory had a thrilling 3-2 win over Adelaide United. Cassius, the world's largest saltwater crocodile in captivity, has died. The exact age of the 5.5-metre monster is unknown, but he was believed to be as old as 121 years. Cassius was captured southwest of Darwin in 1984 and taken to a marine park on Green Island off Cairns 3 years later. He lived there for nearly 40 years with many high-profile visitors, including a Prime Minister. In 2011, he was named the world record holder for the largest crocodile in captivity. Posting on social media, staff from the marine park said Cassius had been a cherished member of their family. On to the weather details now, but first a look at tonight's photo. It was snapped at Arkaroola and sent to us by Kristen Monday. It was hot and dry in Adelaide today. The mercury reached 33.6 degrees in the city at 5:15 this afternoon after an overnight low of 14.7. Further afield, gusty northerly winds brought above average temperatures across the state before a southwesterly change cooled areas in the west. It reached 42 in Ceduna and 36 in Port Pirie. Cloud across the top end of the country contracted north today, but still managed to bring showers and storms there. A front and trough across the south will bring cooler gusty winds and showers to southern areas of WA, areas of our state, Tasmania, Victoria and southern parts of New South Wales. Hot, dry, gusty northerly winds will affect the interior, with the mercury expected to soar to 41 degrees in Alice Springs tomorrow. 32 is the top in Sydney, showers and 23 for Melbourne. Back home, maximum temperatures will be above average in the north ahead of that southwesterly change, bringing cooler conditions and isolated showers. A scorcher in Oodnadatta with 43 degrees. Possible early morning showers and thunder over the southern agricultural area, with tops in the south ranging from 19 in Mount Gambier to 30 in Renmark. A total fire ban with extreme fire danger for these locations, including Flinders and Mid-North, will continue until midnight tonight. A current strong wind warning for our coastal waters will clear overnight, but continue tomorrow only for the lower southeast. And for the city, down to 14 overnight, then a cooler day tomorrow with 23 degrees and the medium chance of a shower early morning. On the waters, westerly winds to 20 knots, tending southwesterly before dawn, with seas to 1.5 metres. The sun will rise at 6:10 and set around 10 to 8. Looking ahead, staying fine up until Wednesday with 29 degrees before showers arrive on Thursday, 23 on Friday and also again this time next week. And that is the news this Saturday from all the Adelaide News team. Enjoy the rest of your evening and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.